Hey guys, Phil and Kenny here. We are going to do a fast thought with Dominic today. Dominic runs La Grotta Del Formaggio. Um, and what we thought we'd do is have a conversation with someone who is in deep on olive oil and quite a few of the different olive oils. By now, you've definitely heard all of the conversations about olive oil and how expensive it's getting, and you probably felt it in your wallet. So what we thought we'd do is call someone who actually knows something about olive oil, not Kenny, because all he does is eat it, and then all I do is buy olive oil that Kenny tells me to buy.
Yeah.
So both are kind of bad sources for information. So Dom, thanks for jumping on with us.
Not a problem. Thanks for having me.
What we thought we'd do is maybe ask you a bunch of questions.
We actually came prepared, which we don't normally do.
And some new questions, I think, but things that, because we feel like this olive oil thing, there's some nuances to this. Like, can you tell us a little bit about what is going on with olive oil? Because all the pricing's going up, everyone's kind of freaking out. Media's picked up on this, but as media does, not this media, but just regular media. They tend
this media has been talking about it for the last 10 months.
Yeah, I was going to say, regular media is a little late to the game.
Yeah. Only about 9-10 months behind. It's all good, man.
Yeah.
Good investigative journalism.
Do you mind telling us, like, what's up with olive oil? Like, what's going on there?
There's a lot of stuff going on. This is not just a recent development. This is stuff that's been going on for years. The pandemic started this whole thing, the Suez Canal before that or during that, all those things really started the snowball effect of where we are today with olive oil. Supply and demand is a huge part of it. Unfortunately, if you look in Europe, if you want to contribute it to climate change or what have you, the weather in Europe has not been great, especially in the regions that are growing olives. There were fires a few years back. There were plagues. Like there was an insect that was just devastating fields in Italy, specifically Puglia, which is the largest area for growing olives.
Half their trees.
Yeah. In Spain, which is the largest producer in Europe, or at least in the EU, drought has been a huge thing over the last 3 years. They have really cold early springs, and then all of a sudden they were pounded with a lot of heat. And basically what it did is it impacted the soil. So when it did rain, the soil could not absorb a lot of the rain that fell. And so it's just, life has not been good if you were an olive tree these last few years. And so what that's done is it impacts supply. And so, the demand for olive oil globally is massive. So when you have supply issues, and then, like I said, you add the pandemic and the Suez Canal and supply chain issues, people were having problems getting bottles. And so they had to buy different bottles or different cartons to pack. It was one thing after another. I would say most recently now it would be mostly the climate change, the environment that created really poor harvest the last 3 years. And typically a lot of the bulk olive oil producers store their olive oil in stainless steel containers. And I think at this time, those reserves have been pretty drained. And so you're basically dealing with the freshest of olive oil because they're getting whatever they can. I'm sure producers are looking outside of their regular regions, maybe looking at Tunisia, maybe looking at places like that for olives so that they could crush them and produce olive oil. But yeah, I think it's more of a supply and demand issue due to climate change and weather and the other things that I talked about.
Countries, Dom, the countries that you're like Tunisia, Turkey, if you look at Greece, it's always been a producer, but never as big as they probably could be. But when Spain had fires and droughts, Italy's got half the trees. Puglia does 40% of the Italian olive oil. Half the trees are dead. I mean, that's catastrophic. Then you get Tunisia and those places where it was less expensive oil a couple years ago, with the supply up, with that demand way up.
Price is
it's
going to go up.
it's just crazy, right?
The simplest supply and demand.
And we've seen some pretty substantive price increases.
Oh, huge.
Like,
And they keep on coming. Like every time we place a new order, there's a new price.
yeah.
You know, and so we've gone from bringing in container loads to how many pallets do we need for the next few months, right?
Yeah, it's insanity, right? Really is.
So what do you know? Because La Grotta supplies a lot of retailers,
Yeah.
and so there's kind of there's definitely pressure, right? Like there's the one side of all of this, like the consumers who are upset with kind of big grocers like Loblaws and all that stuff. We're not worried about that, but we are worried because, you know, the average Canadian, you know, like they've seen their shopping baskets go up kind of 20-30%, right? So now we're adding olive oil to that. Do you have any advice for retailers that might be listening to this? Like, what do you do, you know, besides say, listen, I'm so sorry, but someone has to pay for half the trees in Puglia, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like what do you do as a retailer? Because that doesn't help, right? Like your consumer is either going to leave the store or they're going to do something that you wouldn't want them to do. So I guess do you have any tips for retailers on what they could do a little bit different?
One of the things that I would focus probably on is to expand the offerings and look at other alternatives of oils, you know, rice bran oil, grapeseed oil, those types of things that will help complement the pricing because they're an economical product. You know, you can use that in combination with extra virgin olive oil. Avocado oil is another one. You know, the biggest thing that I would say that's not changed much is when you look at more smaller estate premium olive oils, because these are smaller estates, they didn't really get too affected by climate change. In some aspects, it's actually helped in certain regions of Italy that got too much rain, or, you know, they welcome the drier weather. But yeah, a lot of the smaller estate extra virgin premium oils, they haven't changed that much in pricing. Yes, they've gone up because of, you know, glass bottles and cartons and other things, transport, the euro, whatever. You know, there's the regular stuff that changes year to year to year. But the actual cost of the olive oil itself went up slightly, but not huge. And now the difference between a more conventional extra virgin olive oil and a premium one, it's not far off. You know, if you're thinking a couple dollars more, you know, when you actually look at like a tablespoon of olive oil comparative, you're talking about what, 25-50 cents per tablespoon, you know. And that's why I say, if you want to try to maybe do a little bit more cooking with a rice bran, grapeseed oil or that, and then use a premium olive oil to kind of finish your dishes, right? So as a retailer, I would start focusing on that, trying to showcase premium estate olive oils, not going crazy, but offering 2 or 3 and putting them beside something like a rice bran or grapeseed. So that way, you know, not buy one, get one, but, you know, if you buy a premium olive oil, you get a discount on rice bran oil or something like that. Trying to build baskets for the retailers, but also giving the consumer an opportunity to expand their pantry. You know, if you look in my kitchen, I've got all these different oils on my counter. You know, I'm a chef by trade, so for me, I love playing with olive oils and the different flavors, whether it's fruity, grassy, what have you, peppery. So yeah, so we cook a lot with grapeseed oil and rice bran oil. I'm Italian, so I don't think I'm ever going to go away from extra virgin olive oil. I might use a little bit less, but, you know, what we have been doing, like I said, is using more of a rice bran or a non-extra virgin olive oil for cooking, and then just finishing it with a beautiful premium olive oil. Premium olive oil has such robust flavors, so, you know, you're not going to miss it. You know, it's going to actually be more enhanced, in my opinion.
I was telling my dad's Italian, so he grew up with it, right? Obviously, but I was even telling my mom and dad and friends who will, you know, when we talk about this, I tell them the same, is that when you're getting into premium or estate olive oils, yeah, you might be, let's say a 1 liter right now is $25 to $30, where it was, anywhere from 12 to 17 2 years ago.
Right. Yeah.
A premium 500 mil was $30 2-3 years ago. It's probably 35 now.
Yeah.
So yes, you're getting half the volume at almost the same price. The difference is to get the flavor or the richness out of everyday olive oils, you might have to use 4 or 5 tablespoons in your salad, and then it's very oily. When you open a bottle of some of these premium, like a tablespoon and a half goes a long way. If anything, you're probably going to use less olive oil. Yeah, probably actually save money. If you cook with it, fry with it like you and I do, because we use olive oil in everything, like and everything, right? It doesn't matter what it is, it's olive oil. Yeah. Less popcorn. It's the only thing that doesn't go olive oil. But otherwise, I mean, even for us though, if we stretch it that way, it's like I think great chefs all know the reason you use better ingredients is because you tend to use less of them. Because typically the flavors and the robustness of the product is so far beyond a pedestrian anything. In this case, we're talking olive oil. But
well, if you go to a fine dining white tablecloth restaurant, do you think they're using the best of the kitchen? No. Yeah. They're using a conventional extra virgin olive oil, if not a different type of olive oil or oil, cooking oil. But on their tables,
always finishing with the good stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
And it enhances your dish.
Yeah.
So I don't see why people at home shouldn't be doing anything differently.
Yeah, I agree.
And this goes on, even when everything stabilizes, try different oils. Have fun with that.
So I want to pick on that because the fact that you're a chef, there's some other bits in here, right? One is, so not Italian, in case you haven't noticed, right?
Oh, really?
I know. Kenny's doing the darndest, but not Italian. So the olive oil thing, I do it for health reasons, but I'm not rooted to it. I can move away. And you talked about a couple other ones. You talked about rice. You talked about grapeseed oil,
avocado oil.
What's the because I think the one that everyone knows, right? Like you when things get really bad, you could go super cheap and go to like a canola oil, but you don't do it because you kind of want to stay alive and healthy. So
that's what economics.
So you don't use it unless the economics really say that you have no other choices, right? But what's the value of like a rice? Because I think rice for me is the most unusual. Avocado, I know I've used it before, but what are the alternative oils and what are kind of your best choices there?
Yeah, so rice bran oil and grapeseed oil, I'd probably put on a similar playing field. Yeah. They're both considered somewhat neutral oils, neutral in the sense that they're very minimal in flavor. So whenever you put them in, you're not really going to taste the oil, whereas an extra virgin olive oil, you would definitely taste that. Yeah. Those flavors. The other thing with those oils is they have a very, very high smoke point. So you can do popcorn with it. You can do stir fries. You can deep fry stuff with that. Peanut oil is another one, really, really, really high smoke point, right? Mm-hmm. So, those are things that you can do it. I do find those oils are a little bit thinner in viscosity. So if you're looking for a mouthfeel, again, that's why I lean towards using an extra virgin olive oil or an avocado oil. I'm not a huge fan of the taste of cooked avocado oil. I find it gives a little bit of a bitterness to it that I just not a huge fan of. Yeah. Raw is fine. Like I eat avocados like nobody's business, but when it comes down to the oil, I prefer it raw over a cooked product. However, a cooked avocado oil, from my understanding, is it doesn't break down like a lot of other oils. So you could repeat fry with avocado oil over and over and over again. So as expensive as it is, you get a lot of use out of it. So it actually brings down the cost when you look at it from that perspective. But yeah, those are probably the three that I would focus on: is the rice bran, grapeseed, and avocado. Again, like you mentioned, there's sunflower, canola, but depending on your stance on GMOs, whether you want to use those or not, that's completely up to you. They definitely have uses, it's not on every single grocery store shelf for no reason, right? So
but that's I mean, that's kind of a big deal for retailers to be thinking about, right? Is when you start seeing some of that, whether they're empty shelves because you can't get the olive oils that you're used to buying, or you're just not seeing it move, right? Like being able to sub in a rice, a grapeseed oil. It's a nice, and then there is some education that needs to be done, right? Because I think, I feel like most people might know grapeseed, but rice oil might be a really
a few restaurants,
right?
There's a few restaurants that we know of that actually use it. Same from Dom's point, the flash point is high. Like you can cook on higher heat. Like the reason I actually use it for popcorn pretty much exclusively is I'm not a big fan of the GMOs that we have with a lot of the other ones, but it's just there's no taste, no smell.
Yeah,
it's a big deal to me. Like I love the taste of olive oil. I love the smell. I love everything about olive oil. So I have no.
I'm thinking about sweet and sour. When I not to like complete
the sweet and sour, it would be killer because you wouldn't. There's no. Right, yeah. And you don't get that
no side flavor, nothing I got to mask. Yeah,
no, it's wonderful.
Interesting. One thing I did see in my travels was a sunflower and extra virgin olive oil blend in a bottle. I'm not a big proponent of that. I'm either going to use a sunflower or I'm going to use an extra virgin. So if somebody's already blended it for me, it brings down the price of it, but I don't know. I like to make my own decisions on how I use things. So that's something that I would lean away from.
Have you mixed oils? So let me ask you that, because I've done that. Like I've used at times, like I've done, butter is a little higher flash point than olive oil. I've done butter and olive oil. I have put where I've wanted the viscosity a little higher. I've used maybe a little more base of rice and then added olive just to get some flavor out of it. Where you're trying to stretch on certain things, especially if it's more of a frying, like a harder frying.
Well, just to be clear, clarified butter is a higher
clarified, yes,
because the milk powder is
brown otherwise,
and butter are brown.
Right.
Got it.
But I know I've never blended oils, like unless I'm out of one and I need to just finish a dish. Then I'll grab something just to finish it. Mm-hmm. But no, like I try to utilize, like I said, my pantry is filled with so many different oils that I try to use them for what I got them for, right? If I want to make, let's say, a garlic oil or something like that, typically I would do an extra virgin, but if you really wanted to get a very potent one, you could put it in a rice bran or a grapeseed oil that has a more neutral flavor.
Great carrier.
It's a great carrier, but for me, I like the mouthfeel and that of extra virgin olive oil. So, and I'm not a huge fan of flavored oils, like a chili oil, great. But I could also put extra virgin olive oil and chili peppers on my.
I'd rather do that.
Food. So, it all depends. It all depends.
Yeah.
Awesome. That is it for us. We covered a whole chunk of questions. We have been talking about this olive oil thing for a while, and then it's come up in the news. So we thought rather than just two knuckleheads talk about this, we thought we'd actually talk to someone who knew what they were talking about. So thank you for jumping on and doing this with us.
If there's retailers that want to reach out to you, let's say they do have questions, how would they do that, Dom? What's the best way to find you?
Yeah.
No phone numbers, because people will do it. Don't do phone numbers.
No, they can either go to our website and reach out to us. Probably through LinkedIn is another method that they could get through to our sales team or to our office in general. Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. We will put all your links in the YouTube links below. Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks again for the invite. Appreciate it.
All good, buddy boy. Feels good.
All right, guys. Have a good one.
Thanks, man. You too.
Thanks.
Cheers.